Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles, and on this episode we're doing a top 10. Topic of the top 10? Top 10 King of the Ring winners. Now, before we go into the list, we graded this on the wrestler's impact, what King of the Ring did for their career, how it changed the wrestler, some very little, some a whole lot. But all of that goes into the factors. So there's some years where the king wore the cape and the crown. There's other years where they just got a title. We took that into effect as well. That's why we added how it elevated them as a character, how it elevated their career as part of the criteria. And when I say we, I mean me. Anyway, jumping into this, number 10 from 2021, Xavier Woods. I know this is recent, we're not even a year removed from this, but here we have a guy that kind of was looked at as the third wheel of New Day. Not that he wasn't tremendously entertaining, but he's a guy who wanted his own lane. He wanted to be a King of the Ring. He had said for years that that was his dream, to become the King of the Ring. So him getting to do that and seeing what he's done with it afterwards, it's been a payoff, especially for fans like myself of the New Day, which I believe most wrestling fans love the New Day. I think this was just an awesome payoff, hence why he makes the list. Now, is it as impactful as some of the others here? No. Was Woods going into this going to be a WWE Hall of Famer already? Yes. He's going to be a WWE Hall of Famer, trust me. I say all that, but I think I love the fact he's brought brought interest back in the King of the Ring itself. He's brought integrity to that championship, and he's made it something special. Now, coming from that, our number 9. Another recent one from 2019, Baron Corbin. A lot has been said about Baron Corbin. A lot of people dislike him. I think he's a guy that's constantly handed lemons and makes lemonade out of them. I thought his run as the King was pretty good, really solid. I think it's as good as you could expect with what WWE was trying to make him do with it at the time. I think he really knocked it out of the park in his portrayal. Would I have liked to see more out of it? Yeah. But I think Baron Corbin definitely did the best he could, and I do think it elevated him. I do think it elevated his stock. It elevated his career. Now, coming from that, our number 8. The man went from a lord to a king in 2008. William Regal. Now, the only reason this doesn't get a much higher placing on this is pretty much the last big hurrah of William Regal's career. Not long after this, he gets suspended, and it kind of derails what could have been, in my opinion, a path to the World Championship, because the stuff he was doing as King William Regal, I thought was fantastic. I think it's some of the best work of his career. Because it got derailed, it ends up being a lot lower on this list. If we could have seen a full year, 2 years after this, I think it would have been much higher, and I think it would have elevated him. Not that he's not a beloved legend that every wrestling fan adores. I think it would have elevated him even more to be able to carry this and have a serious run with it. Now, coming from that, our number 7 from 2000, Kurt Angle. Kurt had already risen to a higher level on the card. Kurt was already positioned as one of the top stars in the company. This just added that extra cherry on top of the cake, or cherry on top of the sundae. It made Kurt Angle feel more important, because At the time, there hadn't been many King of the Rings, and very few of the King of the Ring winners before Kurt Angle would be considered misses. Most of them, up until this point, really elevated the wrestler that took the mantle of being King of the Ring. I mean, guys that we're going to talk about later in this, they really took that mantle and made it something, made it mean something. So when someone like Kurt Angle, who's not even 2 years into his, or roughly 2 years into his career here, gets anointed as King of the Ring, it's almost like saying, okay, this guy is someone you need to look for. This is a guy that we consider to be one of our top guys for the next decade, which he ended up being. So it's really awesome that this meant as much as it did at the time, and it really helped Kurt Angle in his career. Now, our number 6. From 1997, 1 year later, Triple H. This was in the transformation from Triple H into Hunter Hearst Helmsley. This was also one of those things where the crown and the scepter weren't used as much, and they started to fade that into the background and made it more of a tournament win. This was awesome. I know the long rumor, and people have said as much as it was a fact, was he was supposed to win a year before, but because of the curtain call, he ended up being punished. He took his medicine, took his punishment, gets to be King of the Ring 1 year later, which, knowing when we know about the year before, I think it's perfect that happened the way it did because of what it launches. Therefore, but I still think this here was an amazing thing and amazing help to elevate Triple H again. Like I said, a lot of this has to do with what happens, how the King of the Ring affects their career. Look at Triple H before, Triple H after. It definitely helped him out. Now, coming from that, our number 5, fittingly that it's 5, from 2006, King Booker T. There's people on here that being the king helped more. Booker T was already an established star at this point, and he was already a multiple-time world champion, already a legend. The fact that he switched it up and gave us one of the great characters and great character runs in the history of pro wrestling, I would put the King Booker, up against any run of anybody in any gimmick for that amount of time, and it's just as entertaining as anyone's ever been. You give me this, you give me Piper back in the day, back in Jim Crockett or Mid-Atlantic at the time. You give me Raven's run in ECW, Cactus Jack's run in ECW, Surfer Sting, Crow Sting. This is one of those things that, to me, it's so iconic. Even though it didn't really change the career of Booker T, he was already a made man. Because it's one of my favorite character runs and character developments, that's why I get such high placing on this list. Now, coming from that, our number 4. The only 2-time King of the Ring winner at the time of this recording, from 1991 and 1993, the Hitman Bret Hart. Bret was already on the trajectory to be one of the top guys, if not the top guy in the WWE when this was happening. This just added that extra rocket, like I said. The precedent being set before this at King of the Ring actually meant that you were someone that they looked at as being a top star. It really, really made something, and what Bret did with it and how Bret carried himself Yeah, he didn't wear the crown, he didn't wear the cape around, but his feuds during this time, especially with Jerry the King Lawler, were some of the great feuds of Bret the Hitman Hart's career. Again, it really made him something more than he was before being anointed the King of the Ring, and it really made him special. Now, coming from that, our number 3, from 1994, the King of Hearts, Owen Hart. I put this ahead of Bret because the King of Hearts version of Owen Hart, and every version of Owen Hart I love, he's absolutely fantastic. This really felt like Owen was special, and Owen was special. He was definitely one of the talents that is, even as highly as people talk about him, everybody will talk glowingly about Owen Hart that was a wrestling fan at this time. All the wrestlers will talk glowingly about him. Even with all of that, I don't think Owen Hart gets the respect he deserves. Owen Hart was one of the top wrestlers in all of the world in ring. He was definitely one of the best promos in all of the world in the ring. One of the, if you believe what you hear, and I've not heard anything to dispute this, one of the nicest guys outside of the ring. Just a fantastic wrestler all the way around. And this was really Owen trying to break out of Bret's shadow and really breaking out and becoming his own thing and making himself something really special. This was fantastic. I love this. I love this run of Owen Hart's career. Again, I love the entire career of Owen Hart. But this really felt special. Now, coming off of that, our number 2. From 1987, the Macho King Randy Savage. This took Savage, who had been a face for a while, had turned, became heel. This really cemented his heel turn, really gave us a different version of Randy Savage. It gave us it refreshened one of the greats of all time. He was already a world champion, but this made the run special. It is so fondly remembered that even now to this day, we're talking 30 plus years later, they're making Macho King t-shirts. They're making Macho King wrestling toys. It's almost as highly regarded as anything he's ever done was him being the king. And his pairing with Sherry Martel was fantastic. Queen Sherry is amazing. And shout out, I didn't mention it during Booker's, but it just reminded me here. Queen Charmel, amazing as well. But anyway, Savage's run here, with how different it was from what he did before and how iconic it is the reason why it made it this high on the list. Now, before I get into our number 1, we do a little thing here called the best of the rest. Basically, things that were considered for the list but didn't make it for whatever reason. First up, 1998 King of the Ring winner, Ken Shamrock. Again, this was in the era where they didn't really wear the crown and the cape as much. However, putting that on Shamrock really bona fide him again as a top tier guy, as a top talent in the WWE. I remember back when you would get like CM Punk would say, when you would go to the arenas and you would get the cup and they would have the faces on them, or the magazines, you'd always see Austin, The Rock, Foley, Undertaker, but the 5th guy on there, inevitably, was Ken Shamrock. People forget just how popular the Ken Shamrock was, and this tied into it a lot, because Ken Shamrock was basically said, look, at this point you've seen Savage, you've seen Bret Hart, Owen Hart. Think of Ken Shamrock on the level that those guys are, because he's absolutely there. And this was an amazing run. I love Shamrock. I think he's criminally underrated. Now, last but not least, on the best of the rest, from 2010, Sheamus. And a lot of this is the fact that he kind of brought it back more in vogue to wear the King's crown. He also had that really interesting crown. It kind of looked like deer antlers almost. And what he did here was fantastic. I loved his work as being the King. I think Sheamus really brought it back to where being King of the Ring switched your character a bit, and we really started seeing more of that after him. But even during this time, this was a fantastic run for him. I loved the King Sheamus stuff. I thought it was awesome. Now, before we get into our number one, if you think I left somebody off the list, put someone up too high, put someone down too low, let me know in the comments. Smash that like button, share, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And with all that being said, our number one King of the Ring winner from 1996, Stone Cold Steve Austin. And yes, he didn't take the crown, he didn't take the robe, he didn't take the scepter. It did not change his character at all. But you'd be hard-pressed to find that one moment didn't change someone's trajectory as much as this one moment changed Steve Austin's trajectory. A lot has been said about how this is where we got, because Stone Cold said so, this is where we got Austin 316. Over the years, it's been said that the shift was immediate. Being there at the time, yes, there was an immediate groundswell going to Steve Austin. It wasn't as overnight as they say in the WWE documentaries, but you could definitely feel the shift. This led to Steve Austin becoming the biggest star in the history of pro wrestling, and there's an argument that can be made with that. I've heard people say Hogan, I've heard people say Jim Londos. You can make an argument for all of those guys, and it's a compelling argument. The fact that he's in that list, and the real start of that trajectory was right at King of the Ring 1996. I mean, look at any documentary, any biography, any retelling of Stone Cold's career. This was the flashpoint. This was a moment where everything came together, and he really became what he would be. And that's one of the greatest wrestlers and greatest characters of all time. With that being said, like I said just a minute ago, you think I left someone off the list, put someone too high, something too low, hit up those comments, like and share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And if you made it all the way to the end, let me know in the comments who your favorite King of the Ring is. Put King, whoever, whether it be Regal, Woods, Booker, Bret, Austin, Savage. If it might have been one of the people I didn't put on the list, Jim Duggan, Harley Race. If one of those guys are there, let me know in the comments who your favorite King of the Ring is. With all that being said, my name is George Coles, and this has been another Heel Heat Top 10.